MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 231 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. I'm Allison Gill.
Hey G, what's up? I'm Harry Dunn. Today we have updates on the E. Jean Carroll appeal and the Alex Jones case brought by the families of Sandy Hook's massacre. I know y'all will remember that sad story.
Yeah, it's been years now. It's still in bankruptcy court. Plus, we have a story about the Trump pardons costing American taxpayers over $1.3 billion. We have the Department of Justice asking for life in prison for Edward Kelley. He's a January 6th insurrectionist, and he's also brought up on charges and convicted of that plot to murder the FBI people.
Yeah.
And we have some comings and goings. The new FAA chief says he's a commercial pilot, and then he's actually not. And I found more information on the, right? Like, how hard is it to just find a pilot?
Right.
And I found more information on that Proud Boys lawyer, Augustus Sol Invictus.
The guy that we had, whose name we had so much fun with. And thank you for everybody that commented on it and joined in on our laughter about that guy's name and the source of his name too. So thank you all.
Yes, we had a lot of comments on that. And I want to thank our new patrons today. We have Gisela Spieler Persad, Lee Tatum, Maris Boudman, Marcia Vaden, Rosalie Hrubik, I hope I'm saying that correctly, and Sheila Alex. Thank you so much for being patrons of this show. You make this show happen. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who came out to our happy hour last Friday on Zoom. That was very fun. We had a lot of great questions. I know a lot of people are very frustrated with the state of the union.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, I wish there was more I wish I had a magic wand. I just am there and we can all share in our frustrations together. And if you want to join us, you can head to patreon.com/aisle45pod. That's AISLE 45POD. And first, it would kind of be weird to go into all this news without addressing the fact that the Trump administration dropped a massive amount of bombs on Iran.
Yeah.
And though he said he totally obliterated the nuclear sites, we know now that he more than likely just buried them and that Iran got their equipment and uranium and personnel out before the attacks because Trump was hinting about it on Truth Social. Like who needs a signal chat leak when you can just have the president tell you what he's going to do?
All you got to do is provoke him and he's going to tell you exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. And Iran has hit back with missile strikes aimed at U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Iraq. Though the New York Times is saying that there was a 2-hour heads up about those attacks. Those strikes were performative and sort of equal to what our attacks were. So they're not escalatory. So hopefully the Trump regime will leave it at that.
Well, yeah. So I don't know if you just saw right before we hopped on this. I think the president put out a statement, something about, I'm glad that Iran got that out their system. Like he literally said, get it out your system, and something about like, let's move forward now or something like that. So, I mean, Well, good, because he was saying if they did anything, that he would come at them with the full force of the United States military. So yeah. I'm glad he tacoed on that. Yeah, tacoed on that.
Right.
Well played.
Iran, though, has said it's going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Hopefully they will not. But there are a lot of major oil tankers and shipping boats that are making U-turns at the strait. That's a major oil shipping lane and trade shipping lane. It could cause oil prices to go up. It could compound the tariff problem that we will see an increase in prices, but we'll keep an eye on that, on all of it for you. And we're reporting mostly on that over on the Daily Beans. So check that podcast out if you haven't already. But let's get into the news now, the news that's flying under the radar. This is first, the story comes from CBS News. President Trump's flurry of recent presidential pardons has cost crime victims and taxpayers about $1.3 billion in restitution and payments. That's according to a review by the House Judiciary Democrats. So I'm glad that the House Judiciary Democrats have put out this report.
Yeah.
The pardons absolved hundreds of convicted criminals from having to pay for damages and restitution caused by their crimes. Victims have not been made whole, according to the Democrats, including U.S. taxpayers who must now foot the bill for the millions of dollars in repairs and cleanup from the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol.
Yeah, this is a story a lot of people need to be paying attention to because everybody's already upset about the pardons as they, stand just on their face. But knowing that it's us taxpayers that are paying for it. The Judiciary Committee Democrats investigation led by Jamie Raskin, a Maryland Democrat, also cited several multi-million-dollar restitution payments that were canceled by Trump's recent pardons. The committee's review said, with a far greater financial effect, President Trump's pardon spree has also swept in big-time corporate fraudsters, millionaire tax evaders, and other white-collar criminals. Thanks to President Trump's pardons, these convicted criminals now get to keep $1.3 billion in ill-gotten gains they stole from their victims and American taxpayers.
I'm glad that Jamie Raskin is reporting this. The Judiciary Committee Democrats say that Mr. Trump's pardons, and I like how, I don't know if ABC or CBS News did this on purpose, but calling him Mr. Trump.
I like that too. I like when people say Donald or Mr. Trump, but not president. Yeah.
Feels like a little poke there.
Absolutely.
But the Democrats said Mr. Trump's pardons absolved restitution payments to victims by Todd Chrisley. Is it Chrisley? Former reality TV show star pardoned last month. Chrisley, who was freed from a 12-year prison sentence for tax and bank fraud, had been ordered to make $17.7 million in restitution payments. He has denied all charges brought against him, but now he doesn't have to pay that $17.7 million back. And the president's commutation of former media mogul Carlos Watson not only spared him from a 9-year prison term, 9 years, but also freed Watson from a $36.7 million restitution payment to investors that he defrauded when he misrepresented the financial health of his digital startup.
Yeah, $36.7 million. That's crazy. The same language, canceling any further restitution payments, was used in Trump's issuance of clemency to Lawrence Duran, the former owner of a Miami healthcare company who pleaded guilty to a $205 million Medicare fraud scheme. According to the House Judiciary Committee Democrats report, the clemency endangered as much as $87 million in restitution payments.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. The report cited CBS News' reporting showing only a fraction of the restitution payments were collected from Capitol rioters before the president's controversial Inauguration Day pardons and commutations of their sentences. Only 15% of the $3 million in damages to the Capitol complex was recovered through restitution payments by Capitol riot defendants when the president issued his widespread pardons, absolving further payments. So only 15% of that bill was paid.
Yeah.
Some of the convicted rioters have recently sought reimbursements, as we know, for their restitution payments, citing the president's pardons. Restitution payments were a standard component of Justice Department sentencing recommendations in the January 6 cases brought by Merrick Garland's DOJ, with $2,000 payments sought from felony defendants and $500 payments sought from misdemeanor defendants, which was still too low, in my opinion.
I agree.
But Mr. Trump's newly appointed Justice Department officials are not challenging some of the requests for reimbursements from riot defendants. So $1.3 billion.
That is, and that's taxpayer money. It's so crazy. Elon wants to look for fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, there's some right there that was just created within the first 6 months of Donald, well, not even the first 6 months, the first day of Donald Trump's presidency when he pardoned all these people. That's our government.
Is Doge going to look at the however many hundreds of millions of dollars we just spent making dirt piles over in Iran?
Not at all. Does Doge even exist anymore now that Elon's gone?
I don't even know.
It's crazy.
Still there.
It's still there, but ugh.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
And good luck getting the answer out of the White House, or hell, even getting the press corps to ask these times that we're in right now, man.
Yeah, I think what's cool though, and I talked with Bobby Kogan, who's a budget expert, a budget analyst expert on the Beans yesterday. I talked to him about this. Right now, the Democrats in the Senate, we're always like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? They have been nonstop all day, every day, researching everything that's in that billionaire bailout bill, the budget reconciliation package.
Line by line,
word by word. and arguing to the parliamentarian what doesn't pass the Byrd rule, right? Because in order for it to be budget reconciliation, it has to have something to do with the budget. But there's stuff in there that doesn't, like that weird court thing that says you have to pay a bond if you want to file a preliminary injunction or a TRO.
Yeah.
Or a lot of, these paying $1,000 if you want to seek asylum and all of this other stuff. And they're going through line by line, and they have made 60 arguments, and they have to argue them in front of the parliamentarian. And fortunately, our side, we have better people to argue those points, and we've won several concessions. So it's still a terrible, terrible bill.
Yeah.
But a lot of it
could be a lot worse too if the Democrats weren't doing their due diligence.
So they're really working hard to strip everything they possibly can out of that bill to save us a little bit of pain.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, Allison, because a lot of people, like you just said, what the hell are the Democrats doing? Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not much that we really can do. But this is something that they can do that a lot of people probably, it's not a sexy headline.
It's not sexy, and nobody's reporting it, right?
But that is some damn good work by the Democrats. I did see something, I think you posted about what Schumer reported or something that was taken out of the bill. Mm-hmm. Or so I wasn't 100% sure, but
there's a lot of
you said about 60 different things so far, right?
Yeah, and they're not all back yet. We haven't heard back on a lot of stuff yet, but they're winning a lot of these tiny little battles. But they're putting in the work. They're putting in the sweat equity and the people power. And
that's what we want to see. So more of that, Dems. More of that.
Yes, that is very good news. It's not going to help offset this.
Yeah,
this stuff, all this wasted money. But a lot of this stuff has to do with, a lot of the things that we got pulled out of the bill have to do with what DOJ is doing, like trying to completely reorganize federal agencies. The parliamentarian said not allowed. You can't put that in the bill. You can't codify this into law.
Good.
They'll still keep trying to do it elsewhere, right? But you can't make it legal.
That's good. Good on the parliamentarian.
Yeah. We'll see if the Republicans fire her.
I was just about to say, you know what's coming next, right?
We'll see. Bobby Kogan seems to be a little hopeful, but J.D. Vance can get up and say no, but then the Democrats can challenge that, and it would take a 60 vote to overturn a Democrat challenge. So it's all like the rules of the Senate are bonkers. And
that is one thing that we have, like, even though the Senate has the majority and there's obviously a lot of things, a lot of meaningful legislation outside of appointments and stuff like that, and confirmations require 60 plus votes in the Senate. So things that they want, this budget, that's not just a simple majority vote, correct?
Yeah, no, it is.
Oh, the budget is?
That's what these little rules are. There's something called the Byrd Amendment, BYRD.
Okay.
Where if it doesn't have to do with the budget, the parliamentarian can pull it out of a budget reconciliation bill, which means that would need 60 votes and not 51 to pass.
Gotcha.
Like Democrats do this too. We passed a budget reconciliation and we wanted to add increasing the minimum wage. But the parliamentarian said, that's a policy thing. That's not a budget thing. And took it out. We couldn't keep it in there.
Gotcha.
I know a lot of folks were really angry at the Democrats for not just ignoring the parliamentarian on that. But Democrats follow rules, sometimes to their own.
To our own chagrin,
But that's what they're doing. So I'm glad they're doing that. And we talk about that in depth on yesterday's Daily Beans if you didn't hear it. All right. We have more news about January 6th insurrectionists, by the way, but we do have to take a quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all, welcome back. This is from Law and Crime. All right. After fighting back attempt to drop his conviction, President Donald Trump's Justice Department now wants a January 6th defendant who was found guilty last year of plotting to kill FBI agents to spend the rest of his life behind bars. A request, he says, is based on a scandalous and unsubstantiated claims and uncharged allegations that have no relevance.
Yeah. So DOJ is actually doing something right here. Again, highly inconsistent because they've let other people's secondary crimes go.
Exactly.
But not this one. Edward Kelley, who, as we know, was a January 6er, 35 years old. He was convicted by a federal jury in the Eastern District of Tennessee last November on charges of conspiracy to murder federal employees. Also, solicitation to commit a crime of violence and influencing a federal official by threat following just a 3-day trial. The government filed its sentencing memorandum just this past Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday, and it recommended life in prison, blasting Kelley's criminal conduct as being unquestionably serious. That's according to the filing. Quote, "The defendant is remorseless," the Trump's DOJ said.
Is that all it takes to just be remorseless? Because there's a lot of other people that are, including your president.
And a plot to kill FBI agents.
Exactly. So from even before the instant offenses of conviction through his commission of these crimes up until and after the trial, the defendant's conduct demonstrates a fundamental absence of remorse, a commitment to continuing his criminal behavior once released from prison, disrespect for the rule of law, and a profound need for deterrence.
Why doesn't that apply to all the other January 6th?
I was just about to say, that sounds like a lot of January 6th people. So beyond merely failing to accept responsibility for his own criminal conduct, the defendant affirmatively believes he is the victim of a crime apparently committed by the FBI, the United States, the trial witnesses, the jury, and this court.
All of us, yeah.
All of us, not him, though. That is
getting together and conspiring to, I don't know, convict a criminal.
Rather than evince a desire to rehabilitate himself, he appears proud of his crimes.
That's a quote from the sentencing recommendation from the DOJ. Now, Kelley's attorney, Mark Brown, filed their response last Wednesday saying the unsubstantiated and uncharged allegations referenced therein place Kelley in a false light and should not be part of the record in this case. Kelley, a Maryville resident, tried claiming earlier this year that his federal murder plot case and conviction in the volunteer state were, quote, related to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6th. That's according to court documents. He filed a motion to dismiss his indictment and vacate his jury convictions. And he made that filing on January 27th, 1 week after Trump issued his executive order pardoning the rioters. The DOJ urged the U.S. District Judge Thomas Varlin to uphold Kelley's conviction. So they've been this whole time, the DOJ has been like, no, other secondary crimes unrelated crimes committed by January 6th rioters should be pardoned, but not this one. And so now what's new here is that they're asking for life in prison. They said that the DOJ condemned his claims as wrong, Kelley's claims, and Kelley himself, they condemned him for having no authority to support his own position.
Yeah. And in March, Varlin, a George W. Bush appointee, agreed with the DOJ and rejected Kelley's court bid to get his murder plot conviction covered by Trump's pardon, saying none of the substantive offenses or charging provisions overlap in the way Kelley has claimed in his filings. Quote, motivated by a desire to initiate a civil war and retaliate for his previous arrests, Kelley was committed to executing his plan, the DOJ said on Tuesday. Kelley took steps to access weapons and ammunition. Although he claims to have gifted his weapons and ammunition to a friend, the evidence in the case makes clear his effort to ensure access to his arsenal in order to effectuate this plan.
Okay, yeah. So he had a ton of guns and just said, no, I don't have them. My friend has them next door where I have the key. Right.
Exactly.
Whatever, dude. Now, in his January 6th case, Kelley was found guilty on 3 felonies, okay? Civil disorder, destruction of government property in an amount over $1,000, and assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers for storming the Capitol building and attacking a police officer. He was pardoned for that. Evidence presented at a separate trial in Knoxville, Tennessee showed he developed a plan to murder law enforcement while his January 6th charges were pending. Prosecutors say Kelley compiled a kill list of FBI agents and employees who were investigating him and his January 6th conduct, which he then distributed to, quote, conspirators, along with images of the targets. That he's like, my pardon should cover that.
Cover this. This is,
That they described how Kelley planned assassination missions for each of his targets and talked about them with others. So he was deep in the planning phase of this.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying it's clear, but the DOJ is not consistent in upholding or saying what is covered. So, I mean, good for them for taking a stand for protecting the FBI here, but they haven't been consistent. But Beginning with a comparison of the defendant's substantive offenses, there is no overlap whatsoever between the indictments in D.C. and Tennessee cases with respect to charging statutes or substantive conduct alleged. Varlin said in his March ruling, none of the substantive offenses or charging provisions overlap. Moreover, counsel for both parties did not attempt to relate these unrelated substantive offenses at trial.
So he didn't even try to make an argument as to why they overlap. That's interesting. And in determining whether Kelley's Tennessee case fell within the scope of Trump's pardon, Judge Varlin said he evaluated relations of time and place and other potential relations. Or he could just say common sense. He found that the case lacks sufficient causal connection to the events that occurred at or near the Capitol on January 6th for the purposes of the pardon, noting how Trump's order situates related events as being within the physical vicinity of the Capitol. And all of his murder plot planning happened down in Tennessee. Quote, these crimes are serious and undeniably dangerous. That's what the government, the DOJ, said on Tuesday. And went on to say he continues to believe he was justified in targeting East Tennessee law enforcement for assassination and was duty-bound as a self-proclaimed patriot to do so.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'm the victim of the crimes that the police perpetrated against me for arresting me for committing crimes.
The courts, the DOJs, those are the bad guys. The FBI, those are
jury,
the bad people.
The court, everybody, everyone.
Everybody but me. And listen, he deserves to go to jail. He deserves to go to jail for life. But, you know, just keep it consistent, DOJ. There's a lot of other people that have no remorse about their actions on that day or even afterwards. So
yeah, and they're unrelated crimes too.
And they're unrelated crimes, the guns, the illegal guns that we've covered extensively on this show. So
yeah, agreed. All right, what do we got next, Harry?
All right. So also in the news this week, something that didn't get a lot of attention because, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. And this is from Politico. President Donald Trump's nominee to head the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, long described himself in his official biography. This is kind of funny. As being certified to fly aircraft commercially, but records examined by Politico show that he does not hold any commercial license.
Yes. Okay. Brian Bedford's biography at Republic Airways, the regional airline where he's been the CEO since 1999, said until Thursday that he holds commercial multi-engine and instrument ratings. By Friday, after Politico's inquiries, the word commercial had been removed. The FAA, what a dumb thing.
What a stupid thing.
Because he's got like a private pilot's license. But what?
What a stupid thing.
I mean, I guess if you want to run the FAA, it's probably best if you have a commercial pilot's license because you deal with a lot of commercial aircraft.
Sure.
So, but now it's been removed. So the FAA registry that houses data on pilots' licenses doesn't list any such commercial credentials for Bedford, by the way.
So insane. I mean, yeah, I agree, but it ain't like he's going to be flying the planes anyway.
Well, that's the other thing. I'm like, can't you just find a fucking MAGA pilot that has a commercial license?
I'm sure they exist.
Have they all turned you down for this job?
I'm sure there's somebody out there with a crop duster that would love to have this job. Questions about Bedford's credentials do not appear to threaten his prospects for heading the FAA, agency trying to recover from years of high-level leadership shakeups, failures of key aviation technology, a spat of near misses in the skies, and January's 67 deadly crash near Ronald Reagan National Airport.
Yeah,
so that was really sad. That was, I think that was American Airlines, but such a tragedy right there.
I like how they're saying that this doesn't appear to threaten his prospects for leading the FAA.
Lying about
no one who leads any agency has any credentials to lead them. In fact, they have the opposite. They are anti-qualified, as I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
Department of Transportation defended Bedford, who would be the latest in a string of licensed pilots confirmed to lead the aviation agency. The Senate Commerce Committee held a hearing on his nomination earlier this week. Quote, Brian never misrepresented his credential. It was an administrative error that was immediately corrected. That's what DOT said in this statement. The agency, yeah, I lied.
An administrative error in your bio?
Yeah. I guess lying is an administrative error now because you're administering a lie. So
they are administering a lie.
The agency didn't respond to questions about what the error was or how it had been fixed. So anyway, only the best people.
Backspace is how it was fixed. There wasn't no damn administrative error.
He got
you
Ferris
lied,
Bueller.
dude. Yeah.
In War Games, right? To go and change his grade. Anyway, Jesus. Only the best. Only
the best people.
All right. We have more to get to. We have a couple of court case updates for you. First of all, we're going to talk about the E. Jean Carroll case and then a little bit about Alex Jones. But we do need to take another quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is time to thank our Hall of Fame patrons for Cleanup on Aisle 45. It's Joey Merck, Tricycular Manslaughter, Je suis fatigue, kind of like fatigue. Oh, okay. So I've been given a correction in the name, Je suis fatigue. Al Morenon, Fran Reichenbach, Jens Eilstrup Rasmussen, Kimberly D. Stephen, and David in Brooklyn. Thank you so much to our Hall of Fame patrons. You really do make this show go. All right. Couple court case updates for you. First up from ABC News, American taxpayers will not be paying for the ongoing appeal of Trump's $83 million defamation case brought by E. Jean Carroll. That's according to a federal appeals court last Wednesday. A panel of judges on the Second Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals denied Trump's request to have the Justice Department argue in his appeal of columnist E. Jean Carroll's defamation case against him.
Yeah, and I think this is obviously the right call.
It's good. It's a good thing.
It's a really good thing. A New York jury just ordered Trump to pay the former Elle magazine columnist $83.3 million in damages for defaming her in 2019 when he denied her accusation that he sexually assaulted her in the dressing room of the Bergdorf Goodman department store in the mid-1990s. Trump has denied all allegations. DOJ lawyers have argued that since some of Trump's alleged conduct fell within the scope of his role as president, the Justice Department should be able to defend the president in court.
Wrong. As Oscar the Grouch says in Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, ding dong, you're wrong.
That is such a good pull. That is good.
Thank you. I don't know what I did yesterday, but that's in my head somehow. Quote, substitution is required because once the Attorney General certifies that the defendant is acting within the scope of his office or employment, the United States is the party the defendant uses unless and until a court rules to the contrary. That's what the Trump argued. Again, you're wrong. And the Second Circuit Court agrees. Let's see. ABC News has reached out to Trump's legal team for comment, haven't received anything. Oral arguments in Trump's appeal of the case are set for June 24th, which is yesterday as you're listening to this, tomorrow as we're recording it. And we'll update you next week on Cleanup on Aisle 45 as to the outcome of those oral arguments if we do have a ruling. Last week, the Second Circuit denied Trump's request to rehear his challenge to the $5 million civil judgment that a different jury awarded E. Jean Carroll in 2023. Yeah. So lose. And
pay the money because you're making all kinds of money through, violating the stock market and selling Trump phones. If anybody ever calls me from a Trump phone, by the way, I immediately block that. Nobody should have my number that has a Trump.
Yeah, so if you have an Apple device, you get texts in blue. And if you're texting someone with an Android device, it's in green. So if you're texting someone from a Trump phone, it should be like poop colored.
No. I thought you were about to say it should be orange.
Orange works too.
But either one of those, yeah, don't text me from that. Absolutely.
I'm happy to announce that on the Daily Beans, we'll be talking with E. Jean Carroll about her new book and these wins in court on the 4th of July, because
that's a big deal, AG.
She is a patriot. So we'll be talking to our good friend then. So
we love that.
What's going on, though, with Alex Jones?
All right, so check this out. All right, so y'all remember this guy, Alex Jones, and that guy gets really emotional and screaming and crying. Y'all remember, it's funny. Go
about
look
frogs
it up. He's hilarious. Yeah, exactly. He's just hilarious and a funny character, not on purpose. But next up from NPR, after claiming for years that he does not have the money to pay even a small fraction of the $1.3 billion he owes Sandy Hook families who won a defamation case against him. InfoWars host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is now facing allegations that he engaged in a flurry of fraudulent transfers of some $5 million in cash, cars, and property to his family members.
I told you. I knew it. I knew this MRFer was hiding money and assets. Remember when he got that Cybertruck gift and he's like, oh, it's actually my brother-in-law's or whatever, if you know what I'm saying. So I knew this was happening. U.S. bankruptcy trustee Christopher Murray has filed 3 suits in federal bankruptcy court in Texas, asking the judge to undo what he calls a scheme bearing the classic hallmarks of actual fraudulent intent to return the assets to Jones's bankruptcy estate so that they can be distributed to the families. Judge, claw that money back. He was fraudulently hiding it. Claw it back so we can have it. Quote, Jones understood he was facing massive liabilities, and he went to, quote, extraordinary lengths to try to protect his assets, including sham transactions to move assets beyond the reach of creditors. That's what Murray said in court papers.
It sounds like something that Rudy Giuliani was doing.
And Trump, too. That's why he had to have that fiscal babysitter, Barbara Jones, put in charge of his, Trump organization.
Yeah, it's out of the same playbook. Attorneys for the families have long been accusing Jones of shenanigans to hide money. Quote, Alex Jones's entire career has been built on lies, so it is no surprise he would lie to hide his assets. He won't get away with it, said Chris Mattiey, one of the lawyers. The families we represent are as determined as ever to enforce the jury's verdict, and he will never outrun it.
Good.
Love that for him.
Now, attorneys for Alex Jones, I don't know if it's Sol Invictus or some other attorney, but attorneys for Jones and his father and his ex-wife did not immediately respond to requests for comments. His ex-wife called the lawsuits harassment, according to the Associated Press, because he's using his father and his ex-wife. That's right. He gave the Cybertruck to his dad. It's my dad's.
His dad's truck, yeah.
The trustees' lawsuits say Jones transferred assets to his ex-wife, Erica Wolfe Jones, his father, Dr. David R. Jones, and a trust for his children. Mrs. Jones, Dr. Jones, and the trust are also named as defendants in this case. For example, the suit alleges Jones transferred some $1.5 million in cash to his wife, purporting to owe her money for under a premarital agreement that the trustee says was never actually ratified. He's accused of selling part of a Texas ranch to his father for $10 and backdating papers to make it appear as if it happened years before, which would have meant it was safe from collections. He allegedly paid more than $500,000 in cash to his father, trying to pass it off as a reimbursement, and gifted his father 3 luxury vehicles in a transfer that was so disorganized and harried that Murray says Jones didn't even know which cars they were. So get that, man. He sold his ranch to his dad for $10.
$10.
And then falsified the date so it looked like he did it before.
Unbelievable. Well, actually, it is believable.
It's totally believable. But, I mean, believable. Brazen and stupid, but believable.
Jones also allegedly transferred 2 condos worth some $1.5 million to the Alexander E. Jones Descendant and Beneficiary Trust, which he argues is unreachable by his creditors. But the trustee says Jones's enablers fumbled the proverbial bag and never actually transferred one of the condos to the trust. Quote, this mad dash to transfer property out of his name is indicative of the debtor's actual intent to hinder, delay, and defraud his creditors when he transferred that property, Murray said in court papers.
Yeah, and if changing the date on a $10 ranch sale to your dad doesn't show intent, nothing will. Now, for years, Jones has been claiming to be flat broke. Quote, we're literally on empty, he said in a video posted in 2023. The money doesn't exist. So I don't like to laugh at these people, he said, referring to the families who sued him. But I mean, I don't know how you don't. Jones is now entitled to a jury trial on whether he intentionally hindered, delayed, or defrauded creditors. So guess what that means? Ladies and gentlemen, they and them, we may have another Alex Jones trial on whether he intentionally defrauded the families of Sandy Hook.
I hope we do, only because, for selfish reasons, we get to laugh at him and his lawyers. But,
see the money go rightfully to the people of Sandy Hook. Right?
Absolutely. But at the same time, I don't want it to be like, let's get these people some settlement. They've already been through enough, these people of this Sandy Hook thing. So it's been enough. So,
yeah.
The Sandy Hook family sued Jones in Connecticut and in Texas in 2018 for what Murray describes as a willful and malicious campaign of defamation and lies against the families of the 20 first graders and 6 educators killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in a 2012 shooting. The families say they were tormented and harassed by Jones' followers who believed they were lying about the death of their children just to drum up support for gun control.
Yeah. And Jones's bankruptcy case has been ongoing now for 3 years, frustrating the families and even the judge. A bankruptcy auction that named the satirical site The Onion the winner was eventually rejected by bankruptcy court Judge Christopher Lopez. Families are now trying to pursue their claims in state courts, and Jones continues to appeal the judgments against him. So we'll keep an eye on this. I mean, if, like I said, if selling your ranch to your dad for $10 and falsifying the date of the sale doesn't show clear intent to hide assets,
what does?
I can't imagine anything else that would. And then all of the other things sort of, I don't know, kind of by happening around the same time, transferring 2 condos to your trust, which makes it unreachable and all that. But only
it's all happening simultaneously,
one.
Right? Yeah.
Right. I feel like the intent infects the intent of the other things. Like, how can you intend to hide your ranch, obviously, but not intend to hide your 2 condos and your 3 luxury cars and your other shit? So
now, isn't this, I mean, could this be, I mean, it's criminal, right? Like defrauding intent. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like outside of just him losing in a jury trial, I think, this, is there some criminal, I'm sure there's some components of crime there.
Well, good luck bringing that in Texas, but we'll see.
Well,
see
true. So, but Connecticut, though, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I think that I guess it depends on where the crime occurred.
Yeah.
Not necessarily who it was against, but we'll
Fair
see.
Enough. Yeah.
We'll follow it. All right, we've got one more story for you. I did some digging, not heavy digging, on Augustus Sol Invictus, because last time we talked about him, I was making fun of his name. I'm like, that's got to be a made up name. But I didn't want to just make fun of somebody's name without making sure that it wasn't his name. So
you didn't, but I did a little bit. So
found out that.
I apologize.
I found out his name and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to go over that right after this final break. Everybody, please stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, we don't have any Rudy news other than he's still an idiot. But like I said, I did some very shallow digging on that Proud Boys lawyer. This is the lawyer that filed the $100 million lawsuit against the DOJ that we think probably will end up like Ashley Babbitt's lawsuit. The one that the judge said, this is the guy where the judge ordered him to show cause why he didn't alert the court to the fact that he's a convicted felon, which would disqualify him as a lawyer. Augustus Sol Invictus, right? So I said, that has to be a made-up name. I was right. Allow me to read from his Wikipedia page. I get all this off Wikipedia. That's what I mean by some very shallow digging. Augustus Sol Invictus, born Austin Gillespie in July of 1984, is an American far-right political activist, attorney, blogger, white nationalist, and convicted felon. Invictus was a candidate for the Libertarian Party nomination in the 2016 United States Senate election in Florida. Local party chairman Adrian Wiley resigned over his candidacy and the unwillingness of the party to disavow his candidacy. He lost overwhelmingly in the primary to opponent Paul Stanton, garnering 26.5% of the votes cast. That's actually a pretty big chunk for this guy.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's over a quarter. So in a press release from 2015, Invictus was accused by the Libertarian Party of Florida of advocating for eugenics and state-sponsored murder. Whoa. In April of 2017, the Libertarian Party of Florida, following mediation, issued a retraction of the 2015 press release stating that it exceeded the mandate of an executive committee and declaring that Mr. Invictus has always been a member in good standing, is a past chair of the Libertarian Party of Orange County, a sponsor of the 2016 and 2017 LPEF state conventions, as well as a dedicated volunteer on the Legislative Review Committee. Sounds like an upstanding guy. Not. In July 2017, 2017, Invictus changed his party affiliation to Republican, announcing his candidacy for 2018 United States Senate election in Florida.
Yes. So Invictus was a headline speaker at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017 that ended in 3 deaths, as we know. He was ultimately tried and convicted for his actions that weekend. He has represented Marcus Fela, the former head of the white supremacist group American Front, in court. Invictus is the publisher of The Revolutionary Conservative, a publication which calls for violent uprising and states that its aim is to restore the American Republic and defend Western civilization. He was controversial within the Libertarian Party for his neo-fascist political views and history of racist associations. He's been described by media reports as being associated with the alt-right movement. He has proposed the repeal of several amendments to the U.S. Constitution, stipulating that only white male citizens should be allowed to vote or own property.
Well, that excludes you and I, AG. During his campaign, a letter written by Invictus in 2013 came to light in which he renounced his citizenship and claimed to have plans of venturing out into the woods only to return bringing war. I have prophesied for years that I was born for a great war. This is his quote, that if I did not witness the coming of the Second American Civil War, I would begin it myself. Wow. Mark well, that day is coming fast upon you. On the new moon of May, I shall disappear into the wilderness. I will return bearing revolution, or I will return not at all. This is a quote from him. This isn't just me going off on a tangent. This is his quote.
On the new moon of May. All right. More from Wikipedia. Invictus has been accused of supporting state-sponsored eugenics for a paper that he wrote as a law student. Invictus, however, wrote a disclaimer to the paper stating that although he believes the strong and intelligent should breed and the weak and stupid should not. Does he have kids? He does not believe that the government can be trusted to implement white supremacy eugenics. Now, Invictus has been identified as a Holocaust denier. I'm super shocked there. He said, quote, "Do I believe 6 million Jews were killed by evil Hitler? Is that what you're asking me? Okay, then I'm still waiting to see those facts."
Unbelievable. Invictus has been accused of crimes including domestic violence, no kidding, stalking, and threats of bodily harm, verbally and with the firearm, which have been reported to law enforcement in Florida at least, get this, 10 times. The victim stated to police that she hesitated as a result of feeling intimidated by Invictus's connections to white supremacist organizations and legal expertise, in addition to her allegations of serial acts of violence.
There's more. Sol Invictus was arrested in Melbourne, Florida on January 1st, 2020 on charges of kidnapping, high and aggravated domestic violence, and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. Upon his arrest in Melbourne, Invictus was then extradited to Rock Hill, South Carolina, where the alleged crimes, this time against a different woman, who is his estranged wife, occurred. He requested a bail hearing, which occurred Valentine's Day, 2020, and his accuser made a statement to the court recounting her allegations. Her claims match a pattern, the description of the acts Invictus's prior accuser had alleged he perpetrated. For example, his wife alleged that he had abused her for 6 years via assaults, including punching her in the stomach to avoid visible bruises, locking her in the bedroom for days at a time. Also, as in prior allegations by the other victim, Invictus's wife independently reported to law enforcement that he had repeatedly strangled her, threatened her life with a firearm, and used the threat to use his extremist followers to silence her, claiming he would send them to target her and end her life if she escaped. However, less than 3 weeks after Invictus's release because of COVID, he was rearrested in violation of the terms of his release.
Like, this is bad. Like, this is bad. But let's read more. In 2023, Invictus was arrested and charged with crimes related to the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. The trial began in February 2024 with Invictus's attorney attempting to have the prosecutor's office recuse itself. Although Invictus is a lawyer, he has chosen not to represent himself in court. In October 2024, a jury found him guilty of burning an object with the intent to intimidate, which is a felony in Virginia. In January 2025, Invictus was sentenced to 9.5 months in jail for his conviction, with the sentence delayed for 60 days pending appeal. It was that week that he filed the lawsuit against the DOJ for the Proud Boys.
Well, 9.5 months, man, with all that background.
And I'd say he got off lucky.
Pays to be a white dude, I guess.
Man.
Jeez. All right. So that's who that guy is. That's who the Proud Boys are being represented by to this Department of Justice. But I mean, I think he's probably going to be kicked off the case, for lying about not being a convicted felon.
I feel like he has to, but this trial is taking place in Florida. Is this in Florida?
The Proud Boys?
The Proud Boys trial.
I don't know. Well, we'll see if there's a trial, if the DOJ settles.
True. So,
like
I know it ain't in D.C., so.
Right. Anyway, that's what I was able to find. My very little digging. I'm sure there's a lot more on this guy that is not covered on the very tippy top of the internet.
Yeah,
I didn't go too far down a rabbit hole after this guy. But yeah, that's him. Austin Gillespie?
Yeah, something Gillespie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that guy. Very creepy looking dude, too. He's got a photo up, one of his mugshots, I think, on Wikipedia.
Yeah, y'all go have fun with that. Go look at that.
It's just creepy eugenicist, white supremacist Nazi. He's just a Nazi.
Exactly,
I will disappear on the new moon of May into the wilderness and emerge with the Civil War. Like, what?
This guy is
like
insane.
That guy has brain problems.
But it's only right why the Proud Boys found him out to be their lawyer, right?
He was probably their lawyer and other stuff,
I'm sure.
God. All right, that is our show. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to keep you posted on a lot of this stuff that's happening. Just got some pretty bad news in from the Supreme Court. They're going to allow Trump to deport certain immigrants to third countries. And so we'll cover that in more depth on the Daily Beans.
Yeah.
And because of podcast time travel, you'll probably hear about it yesterday on the Daily Beans.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for listening. We're going to keep you up to date on everything and stuff that flies under the radar. And we appreciate our patrons for helping us do that. You really keep this show going. So just a big thank you to all our patrons. And it was great seeing you last Friday on the Zoom call.
Had a great time. And also, AG, real quick, I'm glad that you brought that up about the Supreme Court. Because everybody right now, if you turn on any news station, it's all about Iran. I mean, even Fox News, everybody's talking about Iran. And it's a big story. It should be one. But let's not distract that ICE are still out there disappearing people off of the streets, these illegal deportations. Well, in this case, it looks like it's going to be legal just because the Supreme Court just allowed it. But let's not lose sight of what's going on. Trump needed a distraction, and that's a hell of a way to get one, is bombing Iran. But let's stay focused, let's stay locked in, and not let these things go unnoticed or unreported about. So thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah. And if you're all interested in what's going on with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, we're covering that in depth on the latest Unjustified podcast. You can hear in this most recent episode, it's Andy McCabe, former deputy director of the FBI, and myself, along with Adam Klasfeld, who's been doing excellent reporting for All Rise News on those cases, both the Discovery government contempt case, when they failed to facilitate his return, and his trumped up House of Cards charges brought by the Department of Justice as an excuse to stop the Discovery, to look behind the curtain, to see that agreement between the United States and Bukele. So you can listen to all of that on Unjustified. And thank you again so much, everybody. We will be back in your ears next week. If you're a patron, we'll see you this weekend for the bonus. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.